What's up, guys? Brian here from Swing Yard, and today I'm going to be reviewing the Srixon ZXi 5 irons. The ZXi 5 irons are the middle in their current line of irons. They have a ZXi 4, which is a more forgiving, higher handicap-oriented game improvement iron. The ZXi 7 is a forged, less forgiving, more playable, workable iron that you'd see some of the guys on the PGA Tour who are currently using Srixon are using that ZXi 7. And the ZXi 5 is the middle in that line. I would describe it as a club that's good for anywhere between scratch in, I don't know, maybe a 15 handicap golfer, someone who hits the ball pretty consistently but still is looking for a little bit more forgiveness than a pure forged club without as much perimeter weighting. This club is still forged, and so it has a very nice soft feel. Many players who have used forged clubs before never want to go away from forged because it does feel better than a non-forged iron. So this club that I'm hitting today is a 31 degree 7 iron. The ZXi 7 would be a 33 degree iron, so this is a little bit more progressive lofting. So it's going to give me a little more distance than the 33 degree 7 iron that I'm used to hitting. But it is a very nice iron. Actually, I recently got fitted and ended up going with the Ping I240 irons, but this was one of the other irons that I was considering. And so why don't I take a few swings with this iron, and then we'll see how it flies, and I'll take a look in unicore view and make some commentary about what I'm seeing with how the iron flies. So I've got a par 3 that's 197 yards behind me. My actual 7 iron is about a 180, 185 carry, so this is a little longer than my 7 iron would fly. But again, that's because I've got 2 degrees less loft in this Srixon ZXi 5 than in my own iron. So I'll take a couple swings and make some commentary as I see the ball fly, especially if I have a few off-center hits. All right, shot number 1, trying to play a little cut. And I pulled it just a touch. It's not a bad shot. Shot number 2. That's pretty good. I would take that all day long. A little bit of a funny bounce off the Pine Valley greens, which are very subtle. Let's take a few more. That was right off the bottom of the club. Still flew pretty straight. I'm pretty happy with that. 5,500 spin, 10-3 launch angle. So again, I hit that right off the bottom of the club. So you see it flew. Its apex was lower than the other 2 well-struck 7 irons, but that's not a bad miss. Toey, right off the toe. Little pull. Again, pretty low spin. 5,000 spin is pretty low for a 7 iron. Not bad. I'd probably take it if I was playing Pine Valley in real life, but that's well struck. A little long, pretty good. Take that. All right, let's do 1 or 2 more. See how we can get this thing, see if I can get one inside the circle. That was struck well. That's a great ball flight, a little less cut than the other couple shots. And actually the highest apex of all the 7 irons I've hit thus far. Ooh, that's pushed. That's pushed. Not bad. Not a bad miss. So looking at those shots behind me, you can actually see that the ball flights were pretty consistent. I had two pretty bad miss hits, one right off the bottom of the club and one way off the toe, and they still flew 175. You know, my other ones were flying 185, even low 190s. And then that last shot there, I really cut across. But again, the miss was not too bad. I just missed the green to the right. If it was a bigger green, it's kind of a long and narrow green that I'm hitting at here, I still would have hit the green. So I'm going to pull up the numbers in Unicore view so that we can actually look more closely at the launch angles, spin, and dispersion. All right, let's take a look at this session of 7 irons with this Srixon ZXi 5. So there's my grouping. In yellow were the first 6 shots that I hit, and then in red was that last shot that I hit that I cut a little bit to the right. Let's look at that real quick. What happened? And then let's talk about the forgiveness. So you can see I'm hitting it pretty close to the center of the face. My club path is left 4 degrees, which means I'm out to in with a little bit of an open face angle. So I've got 960 RPMs of side spin, which really is what makes you hit a shot that looks like that. But that's not a bad miss for, as far as I'm concerned, from 190 yards. So in my opinion, that's pretty good forgiveness from this club. Let's look at the groupings here. So here are the 7 shots that I hit. You can see average carry distance 185, average total distance 195. When I look at my carries, I've got those 2 miss hits here. So I had one right off the bottom of the club and one way off the toe, and they still carried over 170 yards, 173, 175 yards. That's pretty good. If I'm out on a course and I'm going for 185 carry, and I only 10, 12 yards short of that with pretty bad miss hits. In my opinion, that's really, really nice forgiveness from this club while still maintaining that forged feel. And while I didn't do any shots here where I was intentionally trying to work the ball, it does feel like you can work the ball with this club. What else am I seeing here? Spin, that's one thing I wanted to talk about. So a 7 iron, I typically like to see at least over 6,000 spin. Is kind of the between 6,000 and 7,000 spin. Here I'm seeing low to mid 5, so I've got this one down, a couple down here that I mishit, but then probably on average I'm 55, 57, 5,800 yards. My overall average, or 5,800 RPMs. My overall average is 5,400 RPMs, but I'd like to see a little bit more spin from a 7 iron, and I think that that's one of the reasons that this club goes farther than I'm hoping that it goes. But all in all, this was a pretty good session. I actually want to show you guys one more thing. My grouping. So this is pretty impressive. So my red grouping there is a bunch of gap wedges I hit earlier here in the day, and you can see that grouping's pretty tight, as is to be expected with gap wedges. But the 7 iron is actually pretty tightly grouped for a club that's going 190, 195 yards, especially when my worst miss hit is right over here on the right. That's that cut that I hit right at the end. So that's a pretty impressive grouping as far as I'm concerned for a 7 iron. All right, so that concludes my review of the Srixon ZXi 5 irons. Thanks to Second Swing for allowing me to demo these irons for the last couple weeks. They've been fun to hit. It was one of the irons I was considering purchasing recently when I just got new irons here in the last few months. If you're between a 0 and a 15 handicap and are looking for a club that maybe helps you to keep the ball down, I'm looking specifically for an iron that helps me to get the ball up in the air. But if you're looking for something to help you control your trajectory, you're still wanting some workability, you want the feel of a forged club, while still having some forgiveness, I'd recommend you check out the Srixon ZXi 5 irons. They are a great iron, and if you like this club review, please click like and subscribe, and check us out for more info on swingyard.com. Thanks, guys.